Namaste, Mitron. Welcome back to Movie Community College. Marinam Tishay, the Warrior Queen.
Before we get into Jacob's video about the history of India, I just want to say, you guys remember the T-series in the PewDiePie thing?
I do.
Forget about that. There's something bigger at stake.
That's true.
It's me versus John Campea. Within 1,000. We're within 1,000 of catching John Campea.
That's true.
He inspired me to actually be on YouTube.
True.
And we're so close. We're at 223, getting ready to flip to 224. Very close.
And he's at 224.
He's at 224.
Right.
And when I first started watching this, there was like an 80,000 gap between us.
It's narrow.
Please, India.
Quite a bit.
If you're watching and you're not a subscriber, just help me, please. Please.
Yes.
Please. Okay, so what we have here is Jacob's attempt to give you the history of India in 6 minutes.
Ooh, that's a large undertaking.
It is, and I'm curious if he falls into the Aryan trap. I haven't watched this at all yet, so I don't know.
Let's see.
He'll learn, because
Yes.
if he goes
Let's
with it, he'll
find
learn.
out.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Did you know that shampoo, chess, and yoga were all invented in one place? That's right, in the incredible country of India. One of the earliest and largest civilizations in history, called the Indus civilization, lived in India from the year 2500 BC. They lived in the Indus Valley, which covered the land spanning from the northeast of India all the way to what is now the southeast of Pakistan. This civilization was incredibly advanced for their time. They used tools made from copper, had a huge trade network, and sophisticated urban planning, as well as complex water systems. They even had a written language called Harappan that linguists still can decipher to this day. About 3 centuries after the fall of the Indus civilization came the Vedic civilization. They were around from about 1500 to 800 years before Christ, in which time they laid the groundwork for the language of Sanskrit and wrote the earliest Hindu texts. It was also during this time that Indo-Aryan people became less nomadic and more urbanized, and other religions like Buddhism began to emerge. Even though the subcontinent already had some powerful civilizations, in the last couple centuries before Christ, a crazy powerful empire called the Maurya Empire emerged. They started conquering everything and eventually became the largest empire to ever exist on the Indian subcontinent. They also built the Great Trunk Road, one of the oldest and longest roads in Asia that connected India to Central Asia and made them incredibly prosperous. Actually, at their very peak, they had a population of about 60 million people, making them one of the most populous empires in ancient history. After the Maurya Empire, there was the Shunga Empire, then the Satavahana Empire, then the Kushan Empire, then the Vakataka Empire, and then there was, you get it, there were so many different really strong empires over a long period of time. During the medieval period, a ton of important stuff happened that changed India's future. The caste system was established and gained a strong foothold in Indian society. Also, Islam arrived and political powers began to be more centralized and less scattered. The largest of these powers was the Mughal Empire, who took power in the 16th century. Yes, I know, for now it seems like just another one of those empires, but bear with me. The Mughals ended up becoming the second largest empire to ever exist on the Indian subcontinent, and at their peak they controlled 24% of the world's economy. However, some of the Mughal leaders were very intolerant, and persecutions of Hindus led to uprisings that ultimately caused the Mughal Empire's decline. But something major happened while the Mughals were in charge. You see, in the 16th century, the British arrived and set up the East India Company to take part in the incredibly lucrative spice trade. Over the next century or so, the East India Company grew to be one of the most powerful forces in India, even having a private army of about 200,000 soldiers at one time, which was actually bigger than the British Army. What? Imagine these days companies like Apple or Microsoft having their own private armies of hundreds of thousands of soldiers. That would be kind of strange,
yeah,
you know?
problematic.
When the British government realized how profitable the spice trade actually was, they took power over the East India Company and used the company's influence to take over the entire subcontinent. As you can probably imagine, the Indian people were very hostile toward the British, and for good reason. The British met any form of rebellion with violence, and there were several massacres of Indian people throughout the British rule. Unfortunately, it was extremely difficult for the Indian people to fight back, because during the British Raj, there were a total of 31 major famines in India, which killed millions of people. The final straw for the Indian people came after World War I, when they experienced an economic crisis so bad it led to famine, riots, and a major influenza outbreak. The Indian people desperately needed leadership in their efforts for independence and turned to the now legendary Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi was a big fan of non-violent protesting and invited the Indian people to be non-cooperative with the British. With Gandhi's guidance, Indians started refusing to buy goods imported by the British, boycotted government services, and even refused to pay taxes. Gandhi's most famous act of disobedience was known as the Salt March, which took place in 1930, where Gandhi and 60,000 other people walked 388 kilometers in order to peacefully protest the British monopoly on salt. It took Gandhi's movement quite a while to reach their ultimate goal, but eventually they were successful. Finally, after World War II, the British government could no longer sustain their occupation of India, and so on August 15th, 1947, after 200 years of British rule, India became a free and independent nation. That was obviously an incredible time in India's history, but unfortunately, dark clouds were gathering. Because of religious violence, right after independence, Pakistan broke away from India so they could have their own Muslim state. Unfortunately, all religions experienced horrible violence during this transition as millions of people suddenly became displaced and had to cross the border in order to live in the country where their religion was dominant. However, the tensions didn't stop. There is one state in the north called Kashmir with a Muslim majority population, but a Hindu ruler tried to stay neutral between India and Pakistan. Because of that, Kashmir suddenly became a major dispute as both countries tried to lay claim to it, resulting in multiple military conflicts from as early as 1947 to as recently as 2019. Yeah, I was actually motorbiking all across India in 2019 when the last major conflict happened, and it was so crazy being there. I mean, millions of people were protesting out of the streets. Everyone was talking about it all the time, you know, the news and the politicians and stuff. It was very intense. However, enough with the conflicts. There's so much more I want to tell you about India. For example, their incredible economic growth. You see, back in the day, India's main trading partner used to be the Soviet Union, and after it collapsed in 1991, it caused an economic crisis, so they had to make sweeping economic reforms to revive the economy. Those reforms worked incredibly well, and that resulted in their GDP almost doubling every 5 years since then. Today, India has the 5th highest GDP in the world. They are leaders in tech development and are seeing a sharp decline in poverty as more and more people get educated to do white-collar jobs for national and international companies. India's economy is doing so well that their IT sector alone brings in more than $260 million a year, yet only makes up about 8% of the total GDP. However, I haven't mentioned the best part about India just yet. They're wonderful, wonderful people who are very friendly, kind, hospitable, and they're always trying to make you feel at home whenever you're traveling in their country. If you ever get the chance to go to India yourself, definitely go for it. See where life takes you, and yeah, have
Nice.
What'd you think?
I enjoyed it. Just like with anybody who is a foreigner who is trying to get your own country's history right, I am certain that there are bits and pieces that perhaps he was wrong about. Same thing happens when people who are foreigners try to educate us on American history. There are things that, you know, they're bound to get wrong. But by and large, I think he did a good job. Total side note, I loved the cats on the wall behind him. Those were very cute. Much preferable to monkeys, I would have to say.
I just got to say, for the record, I would go with Bose. If I was back in the day, I would go with Bose. I would be like, yes, let's go.
Bose was a very key part of India getting their independence.
I would have been with Bose.
But again, you know, that's something that you live and learn. You do some more research, and he'll find that.
Thank you so much for watching. There's a link to Jacob's channel, and you can go click it and go check out his videos. He's got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jacob. Appreciate it, buddy.
Yes.
We'll catch you later.
Bye, friends.
Hello, guys. This is Kareem. I hope you're doing well. And as you know, the professor has resisted Patreon for a long time. But now is the time for Movie Community College to offer Patreon. And you may be asking, why now? Well, for several reasons. One, we want to make documentaries, and those have a cost to them. Two, we want to make short films, and those also will have a cost to them as well. Three, we're going to take legal action, all the proper precautions to do reaction videos. So if you're excited about this and you want to get some amazing swag from Movie Community College and some awesome rewards, then definitely Help support Movie Community College by checking out the Patreon link below this video.